Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to another video. And one of the comments that I got when I asked kind of what you guys would like to see for future videos and topics and that sort of thing was what are my favorite artists. And I get asked that question a lot, so I'll make a video kind of going more in depth because there are a lot of artists that I like and that have kind of sort of inspired me along the way for different reasons. And a lot of the artists that I kind of have like grown attached to or liked a certain aspect to is usually I will sort of like think of an idea and the different I am sort of like looking at different artists that have done certain things in the past kind of can it's easy to figure out sort of I guess the route that I want to go myself, and also kind of like a lot of the artists that I'm into have a lot of similar themes and genres. And one thing that's very common with all of the ones that I'm going to talk about is drawing from imagination and drawing sort of character scenes or some sort of like um, very detailed complex scenes is sort of like the really the main thing that I have wanted to do for drawing in general, and I kind of really have always liked like the more epic genres for movies and very like action focused. So I'll just draw sort of in the background as I go through this. Um, and first off, I'll talk about Katsu Terada, which pretty much I was really wondering how to go about drawing from imagination, and also I really wanted like a way to do it where it was like relatively like on the fly. I'm a very like intuition sort of based person, so a lot of the different things that I do is very spontaneous. I like to keep it very open ended and kind of as like a exploration on the page to kind of see what happens. It just makes drawing very interesting for me. And when I was sort of like looking for that kind of aspect, I stumbled upon Katsu Terada's work, and his is very about flow. And whenever I would find a new artist, I would really look for drawing process videos, and really that's kind of the main way that I would learn and kind of gain the most from these different artists. I never like practiced from any specific drawing that they did because I've really learned from like my own experience for drawing. A lot of the is really like the process is really the most important thing for me to kind of like pick up on, and a lot of the times the individual drawings are kind of like a um almost like a training match or some kind of like previous match. Kind of like if you were watching a chess match, you sort of like watch the players play out and things just kind of happen in specific ways for that match. So I've kind of just went through and watched a bunch of different drawings and kind of see like different areas that they decided to make certain decisions along the way. So really the process kind of makes the most sense for me when I'm going through and learning from different artists. But yeah, I really liked Katsuya Terada usually uses like a marker of some sort, which is like close to a alcohol marker, I believe. And he uses very thick lines. So the thing that I really like about his art is sort of how to add detail with a very thick broad line going throughout, and his art and process is very fluid and not much pausing in between. It's very a line to line, and so that's kind of one of the more important things, or at least like personally, what I liked about his work was that sort of flow from character to character. And I was really experimenting on what kind of tool I wanted to learn to draw with. And I tried to sort of like do whenever I find an artist that I really like, I always kind of like test sort of what they're doing and see basically what is usable for my own stuff. And a lot of the times, not too much of a specific artist things are like will all be usable. I've kind of found that little bits and pieces here and there might be usable. So it's sort of like this going around and collecting what might work and what doesn't, then I sort of just leave behind. And Katsuya Terada's stuff is very, he seems like he is very intuitive with it. And so that's kind of an aspect that I wanted to sort of expand on with my own stuff. And also at the around the same time, I sort of found Katsuya Terada from looking at Mobius's work, or Jean Giraud, I think is how you say it. I might not pronounce any of these words correct, honestly. But yeah, a lot of Mobius's work was very, very fluid as well, very similar to Katsuya Terada, so though they have very different sort of vibes, I guess, is the best way I can kind of explain it. But that's sort of like Mobius is like very psychedelic, sort of like space alien kind of theme. And I was really like the main things that I was sort of trying to figure out was how I could draw with ink, because I've always liked a lot of the old Japanese and Chinese paintings and the ink wash. And whenever I did a few classes in high school for art, and we had the ink categories, and those were always my favorite rather than a lot of the painting things. And I always really liked painting, but I like ink was also a lot like very fun. I like the ink wash sort of aspect and messing around with water. And I liked kind of how watercolor felt, but it wasn't like simple enough, I guess. Like having to mix colors in between. I really like to have the character sort of create itself as I'm drawing along, which is sort of the features that I really liked about Katsuya Terada and Mobius. Is at least of what I've heard from how Mobius drew, it was very like from line to line and very intuitive and kind of just like letting things happen on the page. And I really have always liked that sort of method for a lot of other things, to kind of just be able to chill and relax and kind of just explore the page and see what happens. So Mobius and Katsuya Terada, and then I guess from there I'll talk about Kim Jung Gi. So I I get told a lot that my stuff is very similar to Kim Jung Gi, and it was kind of, I was kind of at like a point where I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do like art at all, really. And then I had watched a lot of Kim Jung Gi's videos and kind of really liked watching his process videos that kind of just like learn from or kind of sort of figure out what he was doing. And yeah, I wasn't too sure if I wanted to do art, but it's kind of funny because I was playing video games, and there had been a bit of a period before since I had watched one of Kim Jung Gi's videos, and this was maybe like 7 years ago, and I I was watching one of his, or I was playing games, and then one of his videos popped up on my feed, and I think it was the one where he's drawing like the two tigers on a huge like wall art piece, and I saw how much he had gotten better from the previous drawings that I saw, and I was like, wow, it's like within a matter of months, I could see how much better he had gotten, and that was pretty motivating to because I don't know, I didn't really know if I would progress that quickly or if art would be worth it, I guess. And sort of like watching his video and seeing how much he had progressed and sort of how much fun he made art look, that sort of like inspired me to want to draw really and sort of like practice and really just get in tune with drawing. So yeah, and I think the main thing that I kind of took away from Kim Jung Gi's work and sort of what he did was really the idea of making drawing into a very like daily all the time sort of thing. And at the time I didn't really know how to go about practicing art, and I was looking up a bunch of videos and reading books, and everything was sort of on things you should practice, like the fundamentals, but there was so much like in between that I didn't know where to go, like from the fundamentals to actually being able to create something that you see like a lot of well-known artists making. And also at the time I really wanted to draw from imagination, and I was watching a lot of Kim Jung Gi and trying to figure out sort of how I could do it myself, not like his exact thing or his style or anything like that. But sort of I wanted to create my own characters and sort of like let my own imagination run wild. And at the time, my reference drawings looked like way better than drawing from imagination, but it was really that I just wasn't comfortable enough with drawing from imagination and didn't have the experience that I did from drawing from reference. So, and at the time, I sort of thought about how I was gonna go, and also I thought a lot about how I wanted to end up, I guess, as an artist, and sort of like looking into like if I was 10 years from now, what kind of drawings would I want to make, and sort of like what would I regret not practicing, and those sorts of things. And seeing that Kim Jung Gi had progressed so much in a short amount of time, and he wasn't really using reference or anything like that. It was just kind of from like my own gathering sort of what was happening. I really believed it was just like purely he was drawing so much and enjoyed it, so he was progressing very quickly off of it. So I sort of took that idea and I thought that really I wanted to draw scenes from imagination and with ink. So I decided that I was gonna basically drop reference, like drawing from direct reference, and drop the book studies and everything, and basically just go all in on drawing characters from imagination. And really, I just wanted to see what would happen if I just went off on my own and practice only that for who knows how long. But I really just wanted to see if I could progress, because at the time I wasn't making any progress. Like, drawing from reference, I just couldn't gain anything that was even able to really carry over to drawing from imagination for me. And none of the ways of practice were really working. So yeah, the main takeaway that I kind of had from Kim Jung Gi's work was that, like, to basically draw as much as possible, like on paper, I guess, but also sort of like enjoyment and the, like, interests, like drawing in your interests and the enjoyment, plus sort of doing it all the time, really adds up over time into your overall improvement. So yeah, sort of the, I guess the concepts is the main takeaway that I tried to sort of learn from each of the artists. And yeah, and I guess the brush is probably also what a lot of people are curious about, because that's sort of the main reason that I think I compared to Kim Jung Gi a lot, is because I use a brush with ink. And really, a lot of it is because of the, like, traditional Chinese Japanese painters, like, working with ink. And then I really like, I've always liked the comic book sort of style with a lot of dark and black areas. And so as I was kind of learning, I experimented a lot with fine liners, markers, felt tip brushes, fountain pen. Like, I pretty much tried every single pen that I could find. Like, literally anything I could find, I would just buy one and try it out until, like, the ink was gone, and sort of just see, like, what were the pros and cons, and kind of all of those different things, figuring out if it could create sort of something that I was going for. And that kind of goes back to the always testing and seeing if something could work for me. And I tried the the brush pens, like the Pentel brush pens, for a long while. I used them for like 3 years, and they just didn't really work for me. I didn't like. I tried like smudging for shading, a bunch of different things. I tried hatching, um, just a lot of different things. Like a lot of my art and sort of my learning process is a lot of trial and error, gathering and experimenting and seeing how things go from there. And yeah, really, I found that when I was sort of trying to maximize, because really I want to be, like, still drawing and like loving art when I'm 80 years old, or or whatnot. So really, I'm trying to set myself up to have that, like, long-term enjoyment with drawing, and using a brush really is a lot easier on my wrist. I noticed for drawing for longer periods of time, with especially a ballpoint or a pencil, my wrist would hurt much sooner. And it can still hurt, like with a brush, if you press too hard. But I usually try to be a bit gentler with it. But yeah, so it's a bit of like, it has a bit of longevity, and also it's pretty cheap when, especially like how much that I draw and like how many drawings that I do constantly. The Sumi ink is very cheap when compared to some other mediums like painting or um, I don't know. It's probably cheaper than a lot of pencils, pens especially. Brush pens are get quite expensive with refills. I know you can refill them with your own ink, but I didn't want them to clog or anything. So yeah, and also the ink wash is really big for me, and kind of goes back to like the Chinese, Japanese painters and those sorts of things. And yeah, so kind of just like, I guess it just comes down to being able to have some line variety. It is a bit of a messier um, medium, I would definitely say. But yeah, I it's sort of a personal taste. It's not like I'm trying to copy anything that Kim Jung Gi did. It is literally just out of all the other tools, it just kind of ended up being the one that works most with what I like to do. And besides brush, I also like to draw a lot digitally, which is a little bit similar, but a lot of the ways that I do that is with color instead of the dark ink. All right, and then after, oh yeah, and then also for Kim Jung Gi, sort of a big thing with his art was sort of learning perspective. I was really I was really new to perspective at that time as well, and he was using a lot of fisheye perspective, and I'd seen people talk about it a bit before I actually saw his work. Um, but I was kind of struggling with learning perspective. 2 point and 1 point didn't really make much sense to me, especially with them being so awkward from like day to day. The fact that it's very hard to even notice those perspectives from day to day without a very like specific situation. So, and then 3 point made a little more sense, and I saw a lot of like comic artists use that for like skyscrapers and different things like that. But the thing that made the most sense to me was actually the 5 point or fisheye perspective, since it's like very fluid, I guess, and it was very easy to sort of understand that for the 5 point perspective, that it was like that there's basically like a direction that everything goes with the 5 point. So it was just kind of like easy for me to understand that like everything sort of has like a different direction that it ends up going. So it was just a lot easier to learn, or it made sense for me. And really everyone's sort of different, but and I'm not really sure why it made more sense, but it really wasn't until I tried doing 5 point perspective, and I sort of practiced this like I would say like 99% of my time drawing over any of the other perspectives, just because this one had the 5 point has so much usability with it. And like especially when I was first learning it, just placing down a point in the middle basically knew where all of the lines would end up, so it just made it really simple. And especially going into like placing characters and different things around the page, it just kind of made the most sense. Transitioning into like the grid lines into characters, it just kind of made sense that the characters sit in this way. And also 5 point is supposed to be more so how our eyes see on a daily basis. So yeah, that's pretty much the the bulk of sort of, I guess, learning from a lot of Kim Jung Gi's work. And and then next, this is a little bit more recent, but I also saw a lot of his stuff in the past. But next, of some of my favorite artists is Frank Frazetta. And I guess now I kind of appreciate his stuff a lot more. I'm not really sure why. Like, I always thought his paintings were really cool, but at this kind of point, I've been, or just recently, kind of saw a bunch of his stuff again, and yeah, I just really like sort of the vibe, I guess, that it has. All of his paintings kind of have this similar world, and they're very action focused, like cinematic sort of movie thing, which I really like. And that's kind of something I guess I'm going for my own art as well, is a very like cinematic feel. And yeah, I really like his colors as well. And I've been kind of kitted into a lot of digital painting, and sort of the fact that he used a lot of ink to sort of like practice, or I'm not sure if he started his paintings off with a lot of like dark or black paint as well, but just that sort of, it makes it a little bit easier for me to sort of learn a lot of those like painting things, because I'm sort of like, I'm used to doing ink, and he did a lot of ink stuff but also painting, so it kind of, I can kind of learn a lot from what he did, and a lot of his concepts and things make sense to me since it's sort of a bit of familiarity with it. And you can kind of notice a lot of the artists that I've mentioned so far have very, very similar things about them. And then next, I would kind of keeping, I guess, David Finch is one of the first comic artists that I kind of got into. And then also Mobius and Frazetta also did comics as well. And I think Kim Jung Gi did a few. But yeah, David Finch, I was looking a lot for how to use blacks and very dark areas of ink, kind of what I'm doing right now. And I really liked the comic sort of shading with the dark and getting a very like moody cinematic scene with it. And I think the way that he uses the the black areas with the shadow is like very pleasing, and he uses a lot of angles and grouping, very similar to sort of how Frazetta does a lot of his blacks as well. And so I think that I really learned a lot from, again, he has like a lot of streams and videos sort of showing his drawing process. And the whole time that I was kind of, a lot of the time I was learning art, and sort of like I would go and draw my own things from imagination. And then sort of when I was bored, I would, or my wrist hurt or something from drawing, then I would go and look at some other artists and sort of just like absorb as much information as I could. And yeah, so I'd watch a bunch of his streams and characters, and I really wanted to sort of figure out how the comic artists sort of drew and went about their stuff, since a lot of the comic artists also draw from imagination, and pretty much every artist I think is on this list draws from imagination, except a few. Um, but yeah, I really want to sort of see how you could create shadows and use ink from ground up really, and create like very cinematic scenes. So a lot of these artists sort of, I have found that they have kind of aspects or have figured out certain things that are usable for my own process. And then moving into a bit of manga artists. A super like big inspiration. I'll probably make another video going over more of like entertainment, like movies, TV series, and that sort of thing. But Claymore, it's one of the first mangas that I ever saw, and thinking about it now, that's a pretty crazy one to start with, I feel like. But yeah, I'm totally gonna butcher the name, but Norihiro Yagi, I think is how it's said. But yeah, the Claymore manga artist, and I really really loved the reading the Claymore like story, and all the art in that is like amazing, and it's a bunch of like, if you've never seen Claymore, it's basically about like these like warriors and also yokai, and so that sort of world, but I won't say much more than that. But the art and the story sort of combined really sort of stuck with me as like inspired me. And I never seen much for manga before that. I had seen like a lot of anime, but yeah, I didn't really know you could do those sorts of things, especially with a story. And yeah, so I really really enjoyed Claymore, and I think about his art and different sort of creatures and things that he drew in it. And next, for drawing with a brush, I sort of like went on an exploration to try to find a lot of artists who did a lot of brush work, and sort of figure out what would be a good way or route to kind of go through, and just kind of seeing like the variety and like how different people have come up with ways of using a brush to draw. And the next artist is the vagabond artist, um Takehiko, I think. Some I don't know how to pronounce it, but the artist who did Vagabond, you've probably seen the art somewhere if you've looked up anything about um Musashi or any sort of ink art, samurai. His stuff has probably come up more than once. But yeah, I really like the sort of energy that he does with a brush, and I'm pretty sure he inks the whole thing with just only a brush. And yeah, so just kind of more variety and sort of seeing what's possible, and a lot of sort of gaining a lot of detail with minimal strokes and large areas of black, and that sort of thing is really cool. And a lot of his tones seem to be with hatching, which with like very fine strokes, which is a pretty unique. um and I usually I don't like the look when for my own like brush hatching, so I don't really do it. I'd rather just use an ink wash for it, but the way he does it is really really cool. And I think. Oh, okay. So another. I missed a couple on my list. Just kind of hopping around. The next is Craig Mullins, who's a concept artist, and I don't know if you guys have played any of the Age of Empires games, but he did a lot of the paintings and art, especially Age of Empires 3 and 4. And some of if you Google Craig Mullins, some of his paintings are like actually insane, and I love like the loose sort of style that he does, and that looseness and is kind of one of the main things that I really liked was how you could create something that's very detailed with sort of minimal strokes and but still make it look very like cinematic basically. So yeah, a lot of his things, and I kind of wanted to carry over a lot of his digital painting and concepts and tried to see if I could do similar things with ink. And next we have Gustave Dore, who is an artist from the 1800s, and his stuff is like I don't really know what to really say, but his compositions and the way that he uses like very dark and moody scenes. He uses a lot of like spotlight lighting, which was a little bit crazy for the 1800s with what now it's more like pretty common for movies and different things, but yeah, I think the fact that he was doing that back then is pretty insane. And yeah, he did a lot of like fairy tale and sort of whimsical things, but also some very like more serious and yeah, that sort of thing. And his stuff is very rendered, very a lot of grayscale, and he also did a lot of painting too, which I think is pretty cool that he sort of was like very um multi medium, I guess. um Also some of my other favorite artists, kind of like the same time that I was looking at a lot of Katsuya Terada, Jung Gi, and David Finch. I was also looking at a lot of Peter Han, and um yeah, also another ink artist is really and also draws from imagination, and a lot of his art is really really good. He I know he uses a lot of felt brushes, and I tried using a felt brush and I just couldn't really find a way to make it work, which I think really is the fun and interesting thing about kind of like as we draw and do our own individual art, and we kind of like see what other artists are doing and coming up with. It sort of is fun to kind of like be inspired and take and learn from certain things that can apply to your own work. And then there's also a lot of things that might seem really cool that a specific artist does, but it just kind of like just won't work for your own stuff no matter how hard you try, which is kind of a good thing really. I think it makes everyone kind of unique and have to sort of adapt and find their own kind of flavor for their art. Yeah, so Peter Han's work is really really cool. He does a lot of watercolor too with his ink, which I just can't do watercolor. So yeah, I really really like his work. And a lot of his stuff is very unique with how he hatches and sort of like creates the structure on his characters. And then also, I think last on the list we have Karl Kopinski, and I think I found out about Karl Kopinski around the same time when I was looking up things about. Maybe I actually found, I can't remember which one. I think I found Karl Kopinski out before Kim Jung Gi, but yeah, Karl Kopinski does a lot of paintings and a lot of rendered ink drawings, and his process is very interesting. And kind of like what I was saying about the not everything works that for everyone sort of thing. I tried to do like similar process where he sort of starts with a pencil and very loose and then renders over it with ink and washes and that sort of thing. And I tried sort of using a similar way to transition from pencil to ink. I wanted to see if it would sort of work with me, and it's very intuition, sort of like from imagination. And I was like sort of watching a lot of Katsu and Terada at the same time, so I thought it would kind of work well. But I just couldn't get into it really for the process. So that's kind of another thing too, is that the process of how you draw, I think, is very important, that you enjoy the process, and that it's like not only kind of works, I guess, but also you yeah, I guess, yeah, you just enjoy it in some kind of way or find it interesting, so you come back to it or want to do it. Because there's a lot of processes and things that artists will do that kind of work for them and they find it fun, and then might not just be everyone's cup of tea. It's kind of why, I guess, like a lot of people will say that they want to draw with a brush and different things, but I don't know. It might not be for everyone. Like, you don't need to draw with a specific tool that someone uses to get the same result, or kind of like that same level of, I don't know, whatever you're going for, like realistic or like having that sort of energy or vibe that their work has. And kind of for like traditional and digital as well. I know when I was starting off drawing, I thought that I was gonna have to do digital to get anything that was like rendered or some sort of realistic element to it, since a lot of the artists that I saw were doing digital at the time, like a lot of the video game art. And so I kind of felt like that was the only way, but there are really pretty much unlimited amounts of ways to go about learning and drawing. So yeah, I think that's probably gonna do it for the artists that sort of inspired me, and sort of the smallest list that I could create at the moment. There's probably a lot more, and but yeah, so this is probably gonna be my list of my favorite artists, and kind of just some that have helped me along the way by seeing sort of their drawing process and how I can maybe go down similar routes and really learn and sort of find my own self through kind of other people, I guess. So yeah, I'll quickly. All right, so yeah, I just quickly finished up this character, so I didn't leave it open-ended. But yeah, that's gonna do it for the video on sort of my artists that have inspired me along the way. And yeah, thank you for the comment asking for this kind of video. And yeah, if you guys want to see a specific video idea, or you want like to, I don't know, want to have me sort of go through different concepts or how to draw, how I go about drawing certain things, or it can really be anything like with art and different things like that. So yeah, if you guys want to see a specific video like that, you can comment below on this video or any one of my videos. I'll see it, and yeah, I'll probably make a video on it. I've been doing videos on pretty much every comment like that I've been seeing so far, or plan to do it. And yeah, if you want to purchase any of my originals and things like that, you can email me at brycecolanderart@gmail.com. Or if you want to buy any prints or my 600 page art collection book, you can visit my website. That is brycecolander.com, and it'll all be in the description. But yeah, I don't usually say this because I kind of don't like saying it. But if you like the video, if you could consider liking the video, or if you're new and you want to see more of my art and different videos, then consider subscribing. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.